An object from a forgotten world sits silently, waiting to share its story. Ancient artifacts are not just relics, they are time capsules of knowledge, and modern science is finally learning how to read them. By the end of this journey, you will see the ingenuity of ancient civilizations in a completely new light. We will uncover a 2,000-year-old computer made of bronze gears and explore vast desert drawings that reveal a civilization's deepest fears. How much of our history is still hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right key to unlock it? From the depths of the Aegean Sea, a corroded lump of bronze and wood challenged everything we thought we knew. For decades after its recovery from an ancient shipwreck, the Antikythera Mechanism was a perplexing mystery, a collection of intricate gears that seemed impossibly out of place. Scholars of the early 20th century could not reconcile its complexity with the era from which it came, often dismissing it as a later artifact that had fallen into the wreck. It was an object that defied the timeline, a technological ghost from a past that should not have been able to produce it, but science would not let the mystery lie. Advanced imaging techniques like three-dimensional X-ray tomography finally peered through the layers of calcified corrosion. They revealed a breathtaking network of precisely cut gears, dials, and scales. This was not a simple navigational tool or a decorative object. It was a sophisticated astronomical calculator, a portable cosmos engineered in bronze. Its dials could predict the motions of the sun and the moon, forecast eclipses years in advance, and even track the positions of known planets. The mechanism embodied a profound understanding of celestial cycles, mathematics, and engineering. To hold it was to hold a model of the heavens, a physical manifestation of ancient Greek cosmic theory. Its very existence whispers of a lost scientific tradition, a school of mechanical genius that history nearly forgot. How many other such marvels were lost to time, their knowledge sinking to the bottom of the sea or crumbling into dust? This single device redefines our perception of ancient innovation, proving that the spark of technological brilliance flickered brightly long before we believed it could. While the Antikythera Mechanism reveals a mastery of the cosmos, another artifact conceals its knowledge behind a veil of pure mystery. Tucked away in a university library is a book that has openly defied understanding for centuries. This is the Voynich Manuscript, a 240-page codex filled with elegant, curling script that no one on Earth can read. Its pages are a gallery of the bizarre, illustrated with plants that do not grow in any known forest and celestial charts that map unfamiliar skies. For generations, the best code breakers and linguists have tried and failed to decipher its secrets, leading many to dismiss it as an elaborate, meaningless hoax. Yet the manuscript refused to surrender so easily. The arrival of powerful computers and artificial intelligence has given us new eyes with which to see this ancient puzzle. Advanced statistical analysis has peered into the flow of its strange characters and found a hidden structure. The patterns of words and sentences follow the complex rules of a genuine language, not the random jumble of nonsense. This digital evidence strongly suggests the book contains a systematic, meaningful text, a treatise on natural philosophy written in a code so perfect or a dialect so obscure that it has remained locked for half a millennium. The illustrations deepen the enigma. Those lush, detailed drawings of unidentifiable flora could represent a lost botanical tradition, perhaps a coded pharmacological guide to plants whose real identities were a closely guarded secret. Could this beautiful book be a scientific text from a forgotten school of thought, its knowledge protected by its own impenetrable language. The ongoing quest to crack the Voynich code demonstrates a powerful truth. Our oldest puzzles are not necessarily doomed to remain unsolved. They are simply waiting for the right key, and sometimes that key is a technology its creator could never have envisioned. A voice from the Minoan world speaks not in words but in spiraling symbols. The Phaistos Disc, a simple circle of fired clay discovered over a century ago on the island of Crete, presents a riddle as visually compelling as it is linguistically impenetrable. Its surface is a maze of 241 impressions, each one made by a carefully carved stamp, all winding from the center out to the edge in a tight, deliberate spiral. Here we have no handwritten script, but a message pressed into existence, a feat of early printing that would not be seen again for thousands of years. For decades, experts have debated its purpose. Is it a prayer to a forgotten goddess, a set of rules for a ceremonial game, or perhaps a king's proclamation? The sheer variety of the 45 distinct symbols, depicting everything from human heads and shields to bees and carpenters' planes, offers clues that only deepen the mystery. How do you read a story where you recognize the alphabet but not a single word? Modern technology is now offering a new path forward. High-resolution scans and computational analysis are examining the disc structure, searching for the hidden grammar within its beautiful design. The sequences of symbols suggest a sophisticated pattern, pointing toward a syllabic script that could represent a language lost to history. This was not random decoration. It was a systematic, purposeful recording of information, potentially a diplomatic treaty or a foundational narrative of the Minoan people. The disc's very existence, created with reusable type, hints at a society more administratively and technologically advanced than we often assume. Every symbol we decode is a step toward reclaiming a lost voice, a chance to finally understand the thoughts and ambitions of a magnificent civilization that flourished and faded long ago. What story was so important that it required this permanent, portable form? And why was its language so unique that it vanished without a trace? The silent clay waits, holding its spiral secret just beyond our reach. Far from the Mediterranean, a seemingly ordinary clay jar gathers dust in a museum. Its humble appearance, a simple terracotta pot from ancient Mesopotamia, conceals a secret that would not be understood for nearly 2 millennia. Inside, a copper cylinder houses a single iron rod suspended by an asphalt seal. This unassuming trio is the Baghdad Battery, and its potential rewrites a fundamental chapter in the history of science. When museum staff first reconstructed the artifact and filled it with an electrolytic solution like vinegar or grape juice, they confirmed something astonishing. This ancient vessel could generate a small but measurable electric current. The effect is simple chemistry, an electrochemical reaction between the two different metals and the acidic liquid. But the implications are profound. Was this 2,000-year-old object a primitive battery? Scholars have proposed practical uses, suggesting it could have been employed for electroplating, perhaps to deposit a thin layer of gold or silver onto another metal for decorative objects. Others imagine its role in spiritual life, where the mysterious tingling sensation from its current might have been used in a temple to create a sense of awe, a tangible manifestation of a deity's power. The true purpose may never be known for certain, but the object itself stands as undeniable proof of early experimentation. It represents a hands-on exploration of natural forces, a concrete example of empirical science in an age we often view through a lens of superstition and myth. This jar challenges the very timeline of discovery, suggesting that the foundational principles of electricity were not first uncovered by Galvani and Volta in the 18th century. but were being tinkered with in workshops over 1500 years earlier. Was it a tool, a toy, or a sacred object? Its simple design opens a window into a lost world of investigative thought, where curiosity and observation could lead to sparks of genuine discovery, long before the world had a name for what it had found. High on the arid plains of Peru, a spider the length of a city block stretches its legs across the desert floor. This is just one of the many breathtaking figures that form the Nazca Lines, an immense gallery of art etched into the earth itself. For nearly a century, these geoglyphs have captivated and perplexed all who study them. From the ground, they appear as shallow grooves in the reddish soil, but from the air, their true grandeur is revealed. Monkeys, hummingbirds, and spirals of staggering scale and precision cover the landscape, a testament to a people who transformed their entire territory into a canvas. The most enduring question has always been why. Why would a civilization pour generations of labor into creating art they could never fully see? Early theories proposed they were a giant astronomical calendar, mapping the stars for an agricultural society, or perhaps sacred pathways for ritual processions meant to summon life-giving rains. But modern technology is revealing a purpose far more integrated with the harsh reality of survival in one of the driest places on Earth. Recent advances using drones and satellite imagery have allowed researchers to map the lines with unprecedented detail. When combined with soil studies, a new and compelling theory has emerged. The lines are not random. Their placement appears intricately linked to the presence of subterranean water, the vital arteries that feed the few rivers crossing the Nazca region. Many of the largest figures and longest lines point directly toward sources of groundwater, suggesting they functioned as a vast hydrological map. They may have marked the location of aquifers, guiding ceremonial walks to places where water, the most sacred of resources, could be honored and petitioned. This transforms our understanding of the lines from abstract art into a profound statement of cultural necessity. They represent a deep, spiritual connection between the people, their gods, and the landscape that sustained them. Every time a community walked the path of the hummingbird, they were not just performing a ritual, they were actively engaging with a system that documented their most critical resource, reinforcing their bond with the earth in a desperate environment. The true marvel, however, lies in the execution. How did the Nazca achieve such perfect proportions and straight lines over miles of terrain without ever taking to the skies? They were master surveyors, likely using a series of stakes and cords to scale up a small model into a colossal ground drawing. Their skill was so refined that the lines have endured for 2,000 years, resisting the erosive forces of wind and time. The immense effort invested was not for us, the future observers flying overhead. It was for something they believed was far greater, a dialogue with the forces that controlled their very existence. The Nazca Lines are a permanent prayer for water, a civilization's deepest plea for survival written in the language of the land itself. Deep in the jungles of Costa Rica, hundreds of stone spheres lie scattered as if abandoned by giants. These are the stone spheres of the Diquís Delta, ranging from the size of a melon to colossal orbs over 2 meters across, weighing several tons. For centuries, their origins were woven into local legend, said to be the work of gods or the remnants of a lost, technologically advanced people. The truth, slowly uncovered by modern archaeology, is in many ways just as impressive. These are not natural formations. They were meticulously crafted by pre-Columbian cultures over 1,000 years ago, shaped from hard granodiorite boulders using only other stones as hammers and through the careful application of heat and rapid cooling to fracture the rock. The level of skill and patience required to achieve such geometric perfection is staggering. But why would a society invest such immense effort into creating perfect stone balls? For a long time, their purpose was as mysterious as their creation. The key was not just in studying the spheres themselves, but in understanding their relationship to the landscape. Advanced LiDAR technology, which uses lasers to map the ground beneath the dense forest canopy, has revolutionized our view. The spheres were not randomly placed. The scanning reveals they were arranged in precise lines and groups near the homes of the elite and along important pathways, suggesting they functioned as powerful symbols of social status and territorial authority. A large, perfectly formed sphere placed at the entrance to a settlement was a clear statement of power and identity. Some alignments also correspond to celestial events, indicating they might have served as a physical calendar, marking solstices or other significant dates for an agricultural society. Their geometric perfection, then, was not an end in itself. It was a language. The flawless roundness communicated a mastery over the chaotic natural world, a demonstration of a community's technical skill, spiritual understanding, and social cohesion. Each sphere was a permanent, heavy statement carved in stone, a declaration of belonging and belief in a world now swallowed by the jungle. What does it say about a culture that chose perfect circles as its most enduring symbol? Perhaps it speaks of a worldview that valued harmony, unity, and a cosmic order reflected here on Earth. Yet another artifact proves that ancient genius often appears in the smallest of packages. Tucked away in a simple Egyptian tomb for over 2,000 years was a small wooden object known as the Saqqara Bird. At first glance, it looks like a child's toy, a stylized model of a falcon, its form elegant but unassuming. For many years, that was the accepted interpretation, a ritual object or a simple representation of a bird in flight. But a closer look reveals something that does not quite fit. Its wings are not merely decorative, they are perfectly angled and aerodynamically balanced, with a distinct vertical tailplane that looks less like a bird's tail and more like the rudder of a modern glider. This single detail transformed a curiosity into a profound mystery. Could this object represent something far more than a bird? The question was so compelling that it demanded a scientific test. Researchers placed a replica of the Saqqara Bird into a wind tunnel. The results were startling. The model did not simply fall. Its design generated genuine lift, and with the addition of a small, horizontal stabilizer on its tail, it became a remarkably stable glider. This was not a coincidence of shape. The proportions and angles were functionally effective, capable of carrying the object on a smooth, controlled flight through the air. So what does this mean? Was the Saqqara Bird a toy for an elite child, a sophisticated glider tossed for amusement in the courtyards of the pharaohs? Or was it a ceremonial object, a symbolic vessel meant to carry prayers to the gods, its form inspired by a deep, observational understanding of how things fly? The most fascinating possibility is that it represents a moment of proto-scientific inquiry. The ancient Egyptians were master observers of nature. They watched birds soar on thermal currents and understood the basic principles of air movement intuitively. This artifact could be the physical evidence of that observation, an attempt to capture and replicate the mechanics of flight in a tangible form. It is not evidence of a full-blown aviation program, but rather a spark of inspiration, a hands-on experiment to understand a fundamental force of the natural world. The Saqqara Bird challenges us to expand our definition of ancient technology. It suggests that the path to discovery is not always a straight line from theory to invention. Sometimes it begins with a simple piece of wood, carved by a curious mind that looked to the sky and wondered not just about the gods who lived there, but about the very principles that allowed creatures to dance upon the wind. A different kind of mystery emerged from the dry hills of California, one that seems to defy time itself. Known as the Coso Artifact, It began as a simple geode, a lump of stone cut open by rock collectors in the 1960s. Inside, instead of the expected crystal cavity, they found a hard ceramic cylinder surrounding a metal core, an object bearing a striking resemblance to a modern spark plug. The immediate and obvious question was how a piece of 20th century technology could become perfectly encased within a rock formation that, by all geological estimates, should have taken hundreds of thousands of years to form. This was not an artifact waiting in a tomb, but one seemingly embedded deep within the planet's own slow processes. The debate was instant and intense, pitting those who saw a profound historical anomaly against skeptics who argued it must be a more recent object that had somehow been misinterpreted. Science was called upon to settle the dispute. Researchers subjected the artifact to advanced X-ray analysis and rigorous material testing, scrutinizing every layer. The examinations revealed the internal object's composition was consistent with early 20th century manufacturing, a fact that leaned heavily toward the skeptical view. The encasing material, while hard, was not necessarily a half-million-year-old geode in the classic sense, but could have been a hardened nodule of clay and debris that formed much more quickly around a lost industrial item. Yet the core of the mystery remains compelling. What natural processes could so perfectly and completely encase a complex object, making it appear as if it were an ancient fossil of technology? The Coso Artifact, regardless of its ultimate origin, forces a crucial conversation about how we evaluate such perplexing finds. It stands as a testament to the immense difficulty of analyzing objects that appear completely out of place. The controversy itself is a vital part of the scientific process, a necessary friction that tests our methods and our assumptions. This enigmatic item pushes us to ask not just what is possible in the distant past, but how we distinguish between a genuine historical revolution and a simple, if bizarre, accident of nature. It reminds us that the past is full of strange corners, and that our journey to understand it requires both open-minded curiosity and rigorous, unwavering scrutiny. Another tool was waiting, not in a curated museum but locked inside ancient stone. In the 1930s, along a creek bank in Texas, a curious lump of rock was broken open to reveal a hammer, its wooden handle partially turned to coal and its iron head fused into a solid concretion. The geological layer from which it came was dated to the Cretaceous period, a time over 100 million years ago, long before modern humans walked the earth. This was the London hammer, an object that should not exist. The immediate question was impossible to ignore. How could a clearly manufactured tool become sealed inside rock formed in the age of dinosaurs? Scientific analysis was brought to bear on this profound puzzle. The hammer itself underwent rigorous testing, revealing that its iron head was of a remarkably pure quality, lacking the slag inclusions typical of ancient forges. This level of metallurgical refinement seemed to speak of a sophisticated, if mysterious, manufacturing process. Yet the story of the encasing stone complicated the narrative. Geologists noted that the hard concretion around the artifact could form through natural chemical processes in a much shorter time frame, potentially trapping a more recent tool over centuries rather than millennia. This left the scientific community divided. One interpretation suggests the hammer is a genuine anomaly, a relic from a vastly older and technologically capable society that history has entirely forgotten. The other posits it is a fascinating but explainable geological accident, where an iron tool from the 19th century was enveloped by rapidly forming mineral deposits, creating the illusion of immense age. The hammer's true origin may never be fully settled, but its power lies in the questions it forces us to confront. It challenges the comfortable timeline of human progress, suggesting that our story might be far older and more complex than we have dared to believe. Could this simple tool be a fragment from a lost chapter of human history, a civilization that achieved advancement only to vanish without a trace? The London Hammer does not provide easy answers, but it stands as a permanent reminder that the ground beneath our feet may hold secrets that quietly unravel everything we think we know. The story of the Dropa Stones emerges from the shadowy border between archaeology and legend. According to a controversial tale from the 1930s, a Chinese archaeologist exploring a remote cave system discovered hundreds of strange stone discs buried beneath the floor. Each disc was said to be about a foot across, with a small hole in its center and a fine, spiraling groove that, upon closer inspection, was covered in minuscule, unknown hieroglyphics. The narrative took an even more extraordinary turn when the inscriptions were supposedly deciphered. They were said to tell the story of the Dropa, a people from the stars whose spacecraft crashed in the inaccessible mountains thousands of years ago, leaving them stranded on our world. This account, filled with the drama of ancient alien contact, has been widely dismissed by mainstream scholars due to a complete lack of physical evidence and verifiable sources. The original discs have never been made available for study, and the entire episode is generally regarded as a compelling piece of 20th century folklore. Yet, the enduring power of the story lies not in its literal truth, but in the questions it raises about recording knowledge. It has spurred serious discussions among researchers about how a prehistoric culture might attempt to document a truly inexplicable event, something so far outside their understanding that they could only describe it in terms of visitors from the sky. Could such a legend be a distorted cultural memory of a real but natural cataclysm, like a meteorite fall or a rare atmospheric phenomenon, later woven into a narrative of beings from the stars? Modern scientific efforts have analyzed similar objects, focusing on the potential for ancient peoples to use unconventional materials as data storage, encoding their histories in patterns of grooves and lines. The Dropa Stones, whether a hoax or a misunderstood fragment of myth, ultimately challenge our methods of historical verification. They force us to ask how we can possibly distinguish a fabricated tale from a genuine mystery when the original evidence remains perpetually out of reach. This legend reflects a deep and universal human impulse to explain our origins and to find meaning in the unknown, a story that persists precisely because it speaks to our enduring fascination with the possibility that our past is far stranger than we have yet been able to prove. Deep in a Peruvian riverbed, another set of stones tells a story that seems to defy time itself. The Ica Stones are hundreds of andesite rocks, each one intricately carved with scenes that challenge our understanding of the ancient world. Some depict humans living alongside creatures that look unmistakably like dinosaurs, while others show figures performing what appears to be advanced medical surgery or studying detailed celestial charts. At first glance, they seem to be impossible artifacts, suggesting a lost chapter of history where ancient peoples possessed knowledge they simply should not have had. This apparent anomaly sparked a firestorm of speculation, with some claiming the stones were proof of extraterrestrial contact or a forgotten, advanced human civilization. The allure of such a narrative is powerful, tapping directly into our deepest curiosities about humanity's forgotten past. To settle the debate, science turned its focus to the stones themselves. Geologists and archaeologists subjected them to rigorous analysis, examining the carving techniques and the patina, the natural film of age that forms on stone surfaces. The results were unequivocal. The sharp, fresh edges of the carvings showed no signs of the weathering one would expect from stones that had lain buried for centuries. The patina was inconsistent, often absent from the grooves themselves, indicating the images were carved relatively recently. the overwhelming evidence points to a 20th century origin, with many stones likely created by local farmers. This revelation transforms the mystery from an archaeological puzzle into a cultural one. If they are modern forgeries, why were these specific, bizarre motifs chosen? The answer may lie in the powerful intersection of local folklore and global demand. The carvers likely drew upon a rich tapestry of myth and legend, blending traditional stories with imagery from popular science magazines and comic books that were circulating at the time. The figures of dinosaurs, for instance, could be imaginative interpretations of fossil remains found in the region, woven into narratives of a legendary past. The stones became a lucrative cottage industry, catering to a growing international appetite for evidence of alternative histories. They are, in effect, a modern mythology carved in stone, reflecting not an ancient truth but a contemporary longing. This phenomenon forces us to confront a different kind of question. What is it in the human spirit that so desperately wants to find proof of these lost worlds? The Ica Stones serve as a profound cautionary tale, not about ancient technology, but about the stories we tell ourselves. They remind us that our interpretation of the past is often a mirror, reflecting our own desires, fears, and the timeless wish to believe that history is far more wondrous than it appears. The real artifact here is not the stone, but the enduring human need to find mystery in the mundane and to carve our deepest questions into the most permanent canvas we can find. A chart drawn on gazelle hide challenges our entire understanding of exploration. In 1513, Ottoman Admiral Piri Reis compiled a world map of such startling accuracy that it seems to peer through time itself. Its depiction of the eastern coast of South America is precise, but its most baffling feature lies far to the south. The map shows a landmass where none should have been known, a continent we now call Antarctica. This was 300 years before its official discovery, and the map portrays its coastline not as it appears under miles of ice, but with details that eerily match the subglacial topography revealed by modern seismic surveys. How could a 16th century cartographer map a continent buried under ice for millions of years? The admiral himself provided a clue in the margins. He wrote that he had compiled his map from 20 older source charts, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. This suggests his work was not pure invention, but the culmination of a lost geographical tradition, a thread of knowledge passed down from an ancient seafaring culture that might have explored the world during a brief period when Antarctic coasts were free of ice. Modern analysis lends weight to this incredible idea. When cartographers compare the Piri Reis Map to satellite surveys of the bedrock beneath the Antarctic ice sheet, they find intriguing, though controversial, correlations. The shapes of certain bays and mountain ranges align in a way that feels less like coincidence and more like a faded memory of a real landscape. This single document forces us to reconsider the voyages of the ancients. Were there civilizations with the skill and courage to sail to the ends of the earth, charting lands that would later vanish beneath the ice, their knowledge preserved in a few precious manuscripts that eventually found their way into the hands of an Ottoman scholar? The map is a ghostly echo of that lost wisdom, a silent testament to explorers whose names we will never know, whose journeys have been erased by time, but whose legacy was captured on a piece of dried skin, waiting for a future that could finally understand what it was seeing. Within the dark stone chambers of an Egyptian temple, a strange scene is permanently carved into the wall. The Dendera light relief presents a captivating puzzle. Here, figures are shown gathered around a large, glass-like bulb, and inside this bulb stretches a snake, its head pointing toward a cable that connects to a box held by a kneeling god. To a modern eye, the resemblance to an electric light bulb is startlingly direct. It is an image that seems to defy its own time, a vision of advanced technology etched in a 2,000-year-old temple dedicated to the goddess Hathor. The mainstream interpretation from Egyptologists offers a different, deeply symbolic reading. They identify the object not as a bulb, but as a lotus flower, a powerful emblem of creation. In this view, the snake represents the god Harsamtus emerging from the lotus, symbolizing the dawn of life and the primordial force that illuminates the world. The entire scene is a spiritual diagram, a map of cosmic birth rendered in stone. This creates a fascinating conflict of perception. Are we looking at a literal depiction of forgotten technology, or are we imposing our own modern world view onto an ancient spiritual allegory? The relief forces us to examine the very lens through which we view the past. Our 21st century minds are wired to see circuits and power sources, but the ancient Egyptian mind was steeped in metaphor and mythology, where the natural and the divine were inextricably linked. The snake was not a filament but a life force, and the bulb was not glass but the petals of a flower from which all existence sprang. This does not completely dismiss the alternative theory, however. It instead opens a vital dialogue about how knowledge is preserved. If an ancient culture did discover a fleeting technological principle, how would they record it without the vocabulary of modern engineering? They might encode it within their existing symbolic language, depicting a profound natural force using the only artistic and religious terms they had. The Dendera relief may not be a schematic for a light bulb, but it could be a symbolic representation of the control of a powerful, illuminating energy, understood in spiritual terms. This single carving teaches a crucial lesson about historical interpretation. It shows that our greatest challenge is not just deciphering ancient images, but understanding the ancient mind that created them. The true mystery of Dendera is not necessarily what the carving shows, but how we choose to see it, and what that says about our own desire to find echoes of ourselves in the distant past. Isolated on the most remote inhabited island on Earth, the Rapa Nui people carved their history into wood. The Rongorongo Tablets, discovered by missionaries in the 19th century, present a silent library of knowledge. These wooden planks are covered in thousands of intricate glyphs, a beautiful and baffling script that is the only known written language to emerge from the entire Polynesian world. The symbols themselves are a captivating menagerie of forms, from stylized human figures and frigate birds to crescent shapes and complex geometric patterns. They are not arranged in simple lines. To read them, one must physically rotate the tablet after each line, following a pattern known as reverse boustrophedon. The first line reads left to right, then the tablet is turned upside down for the next line, which also reads left to right, creating a continuous, winding path of information. This unique structure alone speaks to a highly developed and formalized writing system. For over a century, the meaning of these glyphs has remained just out of reach, a linguistic vault protecting the inner thoughts of a civilization famous for its monumental moai statues. What profound stories do these tablets hold? Researchers propose they could be ceremonial chants, sacred prayers used by spiritual leaders. They might be detailed genealogies, tracing the lineage of powerful chiefs back to their divine ancestors. Or perhaps they are historical records, chronicling the great voyages that brought people to the island and the challenges they faced in their isolated home. Modern science is now applying powerful new tools to this ancient puzzle. Computational linguists use complex algorithms to analyze the statistical patterns in the glyph sequences, searching for the repetitive structures that would indicate grammatical rules or narrative formulas. They tirelessly compare the symbols to the spoken Rapa Nui language and other Pacific dialects, hoping to find a key that will unlock the code. Yet this is a race against the relentless march of time. The tablets carved on wood in a humid environment are fragile. Each passing year brings the threat of further decay, potentially erasing symbols forever before they can be understood. The struggle to decipher Rongorongo is about more than solving a linguistic mystery. It is a desperate effort to recover a lost voice, to hear the true story of the Rapa Nui people from their own hands before the final glyph fades into silence. Etched into a ceiling beam within an ancient Egyptian temple, a shape seems to defy its own era. The so-called Abydos Helicopter is a collection of hieroglyphs that, to a modern viewer, looks unmistakably like a helicopter, a submarine, and even a futuristic aircraft. It is an image that has fueled countless theories of time travel or lost advanced technology, a tantalizing glimpse of the impossible made permanent in stone. The truth, however, is a fascinating lesson in how time and nature can collaborate to create illusion. Egyptologists point to a common practice known as palimpsest, where stone surfaces were recycled. A pharaoh would often have the inscriptions of a predecessor chiseled away to make room for their own legacy. At Abydos, the original carvings commissioned by Seti I were later partially covered by new hieroglyphs for his son, Ramses II. Over centuries, erosion took its toll, wearing down the shallow layers of plaster and stone. This natural sanding process subtly blended the raised edges of the older symbols with the newer ones carved over them. The result was not a single image, but a composite, an accidental collage where the tail of one creature merged with the hull of another symbol to create the sleek, robotic silhouette of a helicopter. Science has provided the tools to pull these layers apart. High-resolution, three-dimensional scanning allows researchers to digitally separate the inscriptions, peeling back the centuries to reveal the original, separate texts that were always there. The helicopter vanishes, replaced by the clear, individual hieroglyphs for a royal title and the name of a deity, their meanings restored and their historical context firmly intact. This meticulous analysis does not make the carving any less remarkable. Instead, it transforms it from a mystery of technology into a mystery of perception. Why do our minds so readily assemble these random shapes into familiar, modern forms? The Abydos Helicopter teaches a crucial, humbling lesson about context. It shows how easily we can project our own world onto the past, seeing what we want to see rather than what is actually there. This single artifact stands as a powerful reminder that the most compelling mysteries are not always about what ancient people knew, but about how we, with all our modern biases, choose to interpret the shadows they left behind. But these ancient puzzles would remain locked forever without the keys provided by our own era. The decoding of these artifacts relies on a quiet revolution happening in laboratories around the world, a suite of scientific techniques that allow us to look without touching. Non-invasive imaging, like computed tomography scans, peers through layers of corrosion and stone as if they were glass, revealing the intricate gear trains of the Antikythera Mechanism without ever risking a scratch. Multispectral analysis coaxes faded ink back to life, making visible the ghostly script on a burned papyrus or a weathered palimpsest. This is not magic, it is physics and chemistry applied with painstaking care. Advanced materials science examines artifacts at a microscopic level, reading the story told by crystalline structures and alloy compositions, revealing the secrets of ancient metallurgy and the telltale wear patterns of a tool that was actually used. And when faced with an unreadable script like the Rongorongo glyphs, computational linguistics takes over. Powerful algorithms process thousands of characters, hunting for the subtle, repeating patterns that signal grammar, syntax, and meaning in a lost language. This is the new face of archaeology, an intensely interdisciplinary field where the trowel meets the particle accelerator. It is a collaboration between dig sites and data centers, proving that the most profound historical insights now come from the marriage of shovel and server. This approach has fundamentally shifted our perception of these objects. We now understand that many were not merely symbolic or decorative. They were functional, embodying sophisticated knowledge of astronomy, engineering, and natural philosophy. They were the scientific instruments of their day, built to predict, to calculate, and to explain the world. So what comes next, as artificial intelligence grows more sophisticated and imaging resolution approaches the atomic scale? What long-silenced voices will we finally hear? The continuous evolution of these methods promises a future where not a single inscription is too faint, not a single mechanism too corroded for us to finally understand. The past is not a closed book, but a text we are only now learning how to read.